So CBS News, which used to be referred to as the Tiffany Network, is the latest real estate industry news titan to mislead homeowners and buyers in the real estate industry. And this is a continuing practice we see consistently amongst every news organization. They're just the most recent. But before we get in the details, as always, let's set where the market is and look at the two most important stats. Number one, most important stat on the buyer side as far as demand is mortgage rates. So we can see mortgage rates still have been all year between the 6 and 7% window, closing last week a little bit down at 6.5%. So this is what's driven demand. As long as mortgage rates in relation to inflation is 5%, as long as mortgage rates stay in that range, there will be demand for more property. On the flip side, the reflection of demand from the seller side is inventory. How many homes are for sale? We look at Terradatum, and again, we'll see that the current inventory is about the same as the last 2 years, which were the global pandemic period, but well below the prior 3 years. So other than a pandemic year, inventory is the lowest it's ever been by far in history. And again, while people talk about the real estate market, the banks crashing and Bitcoin up or down or gold up or down to the dollar, as long as real estate price inventory is tight like this, real estate prices in relation to the market can't crash. So the whole market can have economic issues, but the housing itself can't crash as long as there's that tight of inventory. There are pockets in certain cities where there is a problem, but there is not overall. One of the most misleading statistics when people look at the last 3 years, here's an example, California Association of Realtors. Look at this graph, just kind of at a distance, you'll see the inventory is higher in the last 2 years and is going up. And so you'll see breathless articles talking about those facts. But again, when you lay it over the context of the pandemic period versus the non-pandemic period, you'll see that by any real measure, this graph is misleading. That in terms of the market, we have gone through an abnormal market, is now adjusting to a more normal market, and that tells us overall we're in good shape. In fact, let's go to the next level, is locally in Los Angeles. Altos Research does a great job, and they've just ranking, they call the Market Action Index, which is inching up from 41 to 42 this week to 44, I'm sorry. So we were down at 42 a couple weeks ago, we're back up to 44. And this tells us this is a seller market. Why is that? Median list prices are going up and holding. Dollar per square foot going up and holding. Days on market are still relatively low for a spring buying period. So we can see overall that the market for sellers is getting stronger, and it's a fairly normal market to tight market for sellers overall. So where does that leave us? Well, this week we had an interesting article from Money Magazine, which I think is pretty misleading, where they say that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's controversial new mortgage fee explained. Well, not really. So Money Magazine is going to weigh in on this policy. The Biden administration has decided to penalize highly qualified buyers to take money to give to less qualified buyers. Now think about that for a second. If the problem is housing isn't affordable enough, now you're taking people who otherwise wouldn't qualify, giving them an incentive to compete with people who make more money than them, have a better down payment than them. That doesn't create more affordability. All it does is creates more competition for the same number of houses. By definition, less affordability. In fact, this article, Money Magazine, breaks out that a well-qualified buyer in this new policy program is going to have additional fees of $3,500 versus $875, so additional fee of $2,700 on an average American house of $350,000. So what we're going to do is we take the more qualified ones and handicap them, give some money by lowering fees to lower qualified. Now all you have is more lower qualified people competing with higher qualified. It doesn't make the house more affordable. It just mixes around who's qualified and might even create more competition, less competition. Money Magazine doesn't explain at all why this is controversial, how this works, and how this benefits anybody, because they don't want to weigh in. Why? Because these news organizations like confused readers who have to come back with the last thing they want to do is explain to you why you don't need them anymore or why you can learn and be successful without them. So that's Money Magazine. But the worst of the week I want to talk about is CBS News. CBS News used to be called the Tiffany Network. It was considered the best when there's back in the days of three choices of channels. They were considered the higher quality news. Their organization was more professional and such. That's how at least they wanted to be seen. So here's this article by Nancy Chen. Should you buy or rent? High home prices, mortgage rates challenge the American dream of home ownership. And you had this little pithy back and forth article in the CBS morning segment, which millions of people watch. And this is where they get their information. Remember, we don't teach finance in high school. We don't teach it to kids in school anymore. So you're going to get it on the news. And what are they going to tell you? Well, among other things, they're going to tell you a lot of confusion. Housing prices are going up. Rent prices are going up. It's very confusing. What do you do? And they throw in a line like this, that it may be cheaper to rent instead of buy. Well, of course it's cheaper to rent instead of buy. The question is, in the long run, which will create more wealth? It's cheaper to rent, but you're not getting the equity by paying on the mortgage. It's cheaper to rent, but you'll get appreciation of the house. It's cheaper to rent, but you'll get the tax advantages. So here you have a news organization trying to help people understand, and all they're really doing, in my way of looking at it, is creating more confusion. Now, I have to be a little light on Nancy Chen. She is, after all, a fellow Trojan, went to USC, though she lives in New York. But fight on for all those Trojans. But when you look at her work, you'll see of the last 32 articles, none have anything to do with real estate. And this is the point I want to make. When you see these very polished, well-spoken speakers on news programs, you assume they know they're experts in your topic. Here's a lady, based on her last 32 articles, who knows nothing about real estate. And the article she does present here most recently, at best, is some confusing tidbits with no clarity to explain what you can do to be successful in the long run. So what do? You need to have a plan for you. There is no long-term plan for creating wealth that does not include real estate in the long run in America. Now, maybe there's exceptions to people who build great companies. There's a few people trade stocks, but 90% of the people in my life who created wealth did it through either the house they owned, rental properties they ran, or the commercial business in the business enterprise they ran. That's why real estate is so critical. So what you need to do is have a plan for you. How can I help? Let's get together, call me, text me, email me. Let's put a plan together for you to maximize your opportunities in your wealth program and leave the CBS news articles and all the nonsense for everybody else. As always, if I can help you, I'm here. Make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.